All right, I'd like to call our meeting back to order. All right. So now the public comment section is now over. Now the Board of Finance will deliberate the cuts they'd like to make to the budget and come up with a new budget to present to the town for referendum, and I believe it's next a week from today, if I'm not mistaken, correct?
Yes.
Yes, okay. All right, I guess where I'll start, at our meeting last Tuesday. Jill said we go home and think about what we wanted to do for the cuts to the budget to make it more palatable to the members of the town. So I'd like to just kind of go through quickly with the members and see what their thoughts were before we start deliberation. Maybe we're all on the same page, maybe we're not. So I'll start on this, and Tom, you want to have some notes or anything like that?
Well, I've been listening to a lot of comments, all supporting the Board of Ed budget the way it is. And I tend to agree with everything I've heard so far. And I also have heard from two people that felt that the town budget was relatively well thought out the way it is. So at the moment, I don't have any pressing cuts that I wanted to make.
Tom?
I have a few cuts, different departments, public works, planning, debt service, if we could find something there, town council, CIP. And I'm still thinking we got to do something with the school board.
Sure.
Kind of like where Tom was in a way. I'm still kind of struggling with this. Well, the first comment. But anyway, yeah, I'm still kind of struggling with this bit because I know that we put a lot of time and effort into trying to get this budget where it needed to be. You know, I really just need to kind of process this a little bit more. I just don't want to make some sort of reckless decision to cut something that we haven't really thought about. I know that there's some concern about the debt service line. I have some reservations about touching that, particularly that I know what we've used it for in the past and when we needed it. And so I just don't want us to be a little bit short-sighted in terms of what we're doing.
Yeah, so I'm also of similar feeling. I like I've shared before, I think the town comes to us with a cut budget. They do a lot. I mean, I'd be curious to know what was what was actually presented. I know we have it, but you know, for everyone to know, like there is a lot of cuts that the Board of Selectmen make before it even hits our table, which is a little bit different on the Board of Ed side because they have a different process, but it wasn't a padded budget when it came to us. So I just have concerns about making any additional cuts, honestly, to either. This is the first year for me that I felt okay about the Board of Ed budget, because this is the first year where they haven't returned, you know, a lot of money to the town. And I feel that Ryan has done a great job of getting the line items where they need to be. We had a pretty successful audit, so I do feel better. I also do think that a number of our voters were lost in this last referendum because of the concert at the high school. I talked to at least 20 people who didn't come to vote because the concert was over. And they didn't have the time to come before, you know, or they didn't come before they thought they would have the time. So I don't know. I don't feel good about making any additional the budget based on what I've heard.
Randy?
Well, everyone knows that I'm in favor of not touching the Board of Education budget. And also the police department, and your presentation was really thoughtful. I have a couple of little minor that probably don't add up to a lot. Travel expenses. When the town of East Windsor has vehicles out in the parking lot, why are we paying travel expenses for our people to go to seminars? when you look at the Park and Rec department, there was site improvements. The Park and Rec have gotten tremendous amounts of money for improvements recently. Couple of other lines, like I said, nitpicking a lot, dues and fees. Some went up as far as 55%. So, like I said, I am in favor of not touching the Board of Education or the police department budget and to see where we can just pick a little bit at a time with places.
I agree with everything you guys have said, but I think we have to cut a little. I don't know that we should go to the second with the same number. So I would be in favor of cutting slightly from both budgets. People feel comfortable about a number that works for everyone.
And one more thing, I'll just add, I think the other thing that concerns me, right, is that I feel that a number of our voters that are against the budget are just, that they're against the town side. And my concern is that we are going to, there's going to be a detriment to the school budget if we hit if we end up with a 2%. And it's actually going to end up increasing a number of lines on the town side, which, so our attorney fees are we're going to get an increase. So it's not going to get the impact that I think they're hoping for. So I don't know, I just, I don't understand, but I really do truly believe that the budgets were presented to us thoughtfully and in consideration of the taxpayers, as a number of us are taxpayers ourselves. So.
Well, my opinion was that we need to cut at least $500,000 out of this budget. That's where I come from. I believe it should be on both sides. I believe the town should be somewhere 125,000 range. And the Board of Ed between $400,000 to $375,000. That's where I stand, for where I looked over. The Board of Ed, obviously, it's just a number. They do what they need to do with the number. The town, 120 to 125,000 would come from somewhere. I do not believe it can all come from debt service. I'll leave that in there. The town has returned money every year, so that debt service money that we have has not been used, has been returned. We are using the fund balance again to balance the budget out. So that money is coming back into the budget, that's getting returned. They stop returning that money. That has to come out, so we do have an increase for not being able to return to use the fund balance at the rate we're using it. So I don't think we can totally, I mean, if you want to touch it some, we can touch it some, but I don't believe we can totally take it out. We also talk about doing major school renovations. That's debt. I mean, so it's not that far away. We know we need to do something to improve the schools, and that's bonding money, which means that we're not too far away from needing to do that. So I'm not in favor of totally pulling it out. You know, if you want to reduce it a little bit, okay. Say we can pull that $500,000.
So this is the first time since I've been on the Board of Finance that we haven't passed the first referendum. So I do understand, right, the Board of Ed side. For the town side, do we have to cut line by line, or could we say we're cutting this amount, you figure out where to take it from?
We have to take it from here.
What was the answer?
We have to take it from a line for the town. The Board of Ed is their number, and then they can pull from wherever they need to pull it from.
I'm fine for that.
Okay.
So with that, someone needs to put something up. As a chairperson, I can't make a motion, and I can have no vote unless it's a tie.
Can we pull up our budget worksheet? So I'm just, so out of curiosity, if we were to make it so that there was no tax increase, what does that cut? Just out of,
$918,000.
which is not happening.
This is where we stand right now. Total 5.62, the town side is 4.53, and the Board of Ed is 6.34.
respect to Chairman Fines, but I think $400,000 to the Board of Education budget would be detrimental. For years, they've taken the cut. Teachers, staff, supplies. Can't do it anymore. They've always taken the hit for this town. And they put in a responsible budget. They're at the point where they're not filling vacancies, laying off. What about some of our other departments? Public Works, there's 2 vacancies within the Public Works Department. Okay. Just been filled recently. Maybe there's some cuts that can be made within town hall staffing. I'm just throwing things out there just because, as everybody knows, I'm a big advocate for the Board of Education. And $400,000 for just, yeah.
What will the cut be if they end up at 2%? That's what's gonna happen, so that's why I'm asking.
I'm thinking 1.2 on the school side
Yeah,
and 300 and something on the town side.
The, part of my reason on the Board of Ed is I don't know that I'm truly making it. I mean, we're making a cut, yes. My opinion would be a cut. But last year, this board did reduce them $400,000. And the Board of Ed used their full 2% fund, which is about $400,000 to make up that difference. So this year, they're asking us to put the $400,000 back in there, plus asking us an increase. We're asking to make up that $400,000. That's where I'm coming from on my side. I mean, the 2% fund was given to them as an emergency use for whatever. We don't control it. But, you know, my objective is it was a major emergency happened. I don't think the fund money was given years ago. It was used more for that emergency purpose, not to run a school year budget. That's what my opinion is on the cut. I'm looking at the Board of Ed. That's where I stood on that. I'm not, that's just my opinion. You can agree or disagree, but that's where I came from for that number. Any other comments? Like I said, I can't make a motion, so someone needs to start offering something.
well, can we talk through the debt service? Like,
Yes.
what would the impact, what is the impact?
So we have $500,000 of current debt service. And the difference in there is for the due within 1 year compensated absence in the audit. It's been out on Facebook, so it shouldn't be a surprise to anybody, which is 515,000 in the last audit. So it doesn't even cover it, but that's the auditor's feeling of what would be due within 1 year of compensated time. People have been accrued but not taken yet. So that's the 2 pieces that make up debt service.
You had some offers there on the town.
Yeah, I guess I'll start then. I'd like to make a motion to cut the town council by 100,000. And if we need more money, to have them come back to us to give them money out of appropriation.
And you say town council, what,
I mean, the town council and 54,139,
oh, the lawyer,
the lawyers.
lawyers,
I'm sorry.
gotcha. Yes, town council, yes. So you're making that in the form of a motion?
I'll make it a motion.
Is there a second? Discussion.
Can we ask Jason to come back to that?
Would be considerable. I have a presentation for the board that actually talks about that. So it's no secret to anybody that our legal costs are up this year. I thought the Board of Finance might be interested in seeing the specifics why. I'll add that out. There are some things this year that are outliers, and that are likely not to happen, and probably another 5. First and foremost, the largest expense we have on here in legal is, if we turn to page 2, which is better. Page number. This shows in a cascading effect the cost by account. Far and away, our largest expenditure in legal this year has been tax. And that's because after the revaluations for assessment appeals, opted not to hear any appeals over $1 million in value, suddenly all to the Superior Court. All of those need to be to be either defended or litigated. So that was a $66,000 expense this year that we won't have anywhere near that degree moving forward. There's a couple of other things on here that I would flag. There's been a settlement with a local developer over a land use matter. That was very costly, but we recouped all of the legal costs associated with that. So that actually netted out to zero. Shows up as an expenditure, but it's not actually an expenditure. Labor negotiations, as I said before, well, at this time last year, we had 3 bargaining units that are out of negotiations. We incurred some costs from some bargaining units that were actually in contract that are going through the arbitration process. In the next year, we're going to have we still have supervisors, which is going to arbitration. That will be cost. It's somewhere in the, well, that's going to be costly to adjudicate that. We're going to have to negotiate with the police union, and we're going to have to negotiate with the clerical union all in the next year. So negotiation costs are going to continue to be a cost. We've had some nuisance lawsuits brought by a couple of residents that have collectively costed, between 2 people, have cost the town $30,000. That's
Not true.
It is
That's not true. They're not nuisance lawsuits. You lost them.
okay. That's
Tell the truth.
That's a technical. So I have 2 constituents who brought cases against the town that have cost us more than $30,000. Everything else in here is really defense. There are things that we've defended against from a land use perspective, generally speaking. Now, the legal costs are not just, I know there's some folks who like to take umbrage with Pullman and Connolly, usually because they come out on the short side of those encounters, but we use this year a total of 5 different law firms, and we also leaned into Kerman. I want to explain how that. Law firms that we use this fiscal year are Pullman and Connolly, Howard and Sage, Upright, Keller and Fellison, Howard and Newdorf, and Bartlett and Brick. We also, what you guys are seeing generally is the expenditure side of our legal costs. You're not seeing the back side of it. So when KERMA represents us, we are still obligated to pay the first $5,000 for every lawsuit that is brought, even if KERMA steps in and provides the legal defense for it. In instances where KERMA does not defend us, we have to pay that $5,000 deductible. And then they will reimburse us up to $10,000 per case. And that comes back to the town. This year, we recovered $40,000 in legal fees from our insurance carrier that really is not part of what that expense is. But that deductible, we still have to pay every time there's a claim that's brought, even if KERMA does defend it. So we're playing defense. Now, there's also, as you all are well aware, there's a very present public policy interest in the community around the fighting solar. You're cutting $100,000 out of legal. That's going to make it that much harder to fight those petitions. Those are expensive. They involve representation in front of the citing council, and then they very likely involve an appeal to the Superior Court. That is not an inexpensive proposition. So which hand do you want me to fight?
Thank you. I have a question, Jason. Overall then, from your perspective then, the money that's going into these cases then, are we coming out more on the favorable side or is that, you were mentioning about costs that were recuperated, so
Yeah.
So like, can you maybe
The tax appeals we're generally coming out on the right side of. and I define that by being, if you want to pay X and I want you to pay Y, we're coming out closer to Y, but we're not coming out at Y plus, we're coming out somewhere in between. So we're coming out more favorably to the town than not, but there's still a loss in front. Labor negotiations are just, it's a cost of doing business. The nuisance suits are not at all beneficial to anybody. And then like the land use matters, largely they get resolved. They go through a process and then there's a settlement that's reached, and the settlement generally walks away feeling like, I didn't really like that, which is a sign that you probably came out with a good resolution. Did I answer your question?
Yeah, I'm just concerned. I guess I'm looking at it from the perspective if I'm a citizen and I'm wondering whether the return, right?
So tax appeals, there's an ROI. Von Hollander, there was an ROI. We more than broke even on that. Pension matters and negotiations are cost of doing business. The Cepatelli stuff is an absolute loser for the town. The land use stuff is just the general functionality. So when somebody has a question, when staff have a question about how do you go about appeal or offering an opportunity to appeal a citation that was offered, it's the legal research component of things. Yeah, I mean, I don't think anybody wins in a lawsuit, but we're not bringing to defending.
Right. I'm just questioning whether or not it's money that's false. Yeah, yes.
I say it.
Do we foresee tax appeals to continue to be this high though, or are we done, right?
We're not all the way done. We are almost all the way done. It's been a relief. That's been a focal point this year. And those are mostly.
Just as a info, I in the legal line for the budget we approved, we did take, let's see here, for town council. I'm gonna look the right line here, 24-25, we are down $60,000, which is basically what the tax appeal is for what we approved from last year to this year. And for labor relations, there's 25,000 left. So we did, the budget we approved on whatever day we approved it is for $310,000, which is $85,000 less than the 395, which was their budget for 24-25.
Well, we did $100,000 transfer.
We did do 100 transfer it, so it's basically
The budget's up 15,000.
up 15, that was
For next year.
$15,000.
Take out the tax appeals
Yeah.
and take out the nuisance, well under budget.
Yeah.
And if I wouldn't go so far as to say, I think $100,000 is excessive, but you could certainly flat fund that line, I would be comfortable.
So the money we transferred in was basically to cover, for the most part, the tax appeals and the other items. For the most part, because we didn't, when we did the budget for 24-25, we did not know about the process from the tax appeals. We didn't know that was coming.
No, that process didn't happen until July.
Yeah. So we didn't know that when we did last year's budget. So that's why it went up so high, but then that money was taken back out into the budget process. So we do have a motion on the floor to take $100,000 from town council. We can bend that motion, or we can go down and look elsewhere. So is there any discussion amongst the board before I ask for a vote?
Yeah, just remember, so but if we had to, we could always come for an added approach. We needed to do.
I mean, I'm gonna vigorously defend the town at every step of the way. So at some point, that's gonna happen.
Is there a place another place you can put the 100,000?
If the 100,000 is what you want out of the town side, I'm happy to offer some suggestions to get that.
Other places we take the 100,000, that's how much they, or we just start.
We can vote on this first.
Oh, like I said, we can amend it if you want to take some. So you take 15, it would flatline it. So
I would go to amend that to take 15,000. The flat line.
there's a second.
I'll second.
So now we have discussion on the motion of amending the original motion from $100,000 to $15,000 reduction from the legal counsel. Any discussion on that? I'm going to ask for a vote. All those in favor of amending the motion to take $100,000 from the legal line to $15,000 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. All right, now we're open for discussion. Motion passes. We're open for discussion on still have discussion on the amended motion of reducing the legal line by $15,000. Is there any further discussion? Okay, I'll ask for a vote. All those in favor of reducing legal by $15,000, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, so we have our first deduction of $15,000 from the legal. And, oh, shoot, we can put that between town council and labor relations, but I suppose it comes out of the town side instead of labor side. So that'll come from the town, not the labor negotiation.
Yeah, there's a lot of labor stuff. I think.
Okay. You think you want to say something? Jay?
Yeah, I don't, do we?
You want to get up or something where your thoughts were?
Sure. So once Amy's done doing her thing.
Okay.
So you want to go in sequence? Let's go to IT. In 533001. Software licensing, so we're planning on implementing a new software, that would support the, building department and the planning department. That's a change, that's something new, we haven't executed the contract on that yet. It would be, changing from a fee for user model, which is what we currently use, to a flat fee expense board in the budget. So you can take, 9,326 out of that line, and then there's two other associated lines in planning and building that have a small savings as well, for a total of 13,326.
Well, do we want to vote on the new budget, right?
Yeah, just say. All right,
Or are
so,
we going to go back and do those after?
well, we can discuss. So that is.
Those three lines together, eliminate the new software. And again, it's, what we have is a fee for use model. So, there's an additional $10 fee that's tagged on your permit when you go to pull the permit. If you don't pull a permit, if you're not doing work on your house or any type of a renovation, you don't pay that. It's not part of your tax. So there's a savings there between those three lines, that we can. Exact, that's 13,000, which gives me 28 and change. So do you guys want to, how do you want to do that?
We can discuss this.
Well, we have to make a motion, no, we're not.
We do need a motion if we want to approve this $13,000 in IT savings. It's the actual number, 13,000.
I'm sorry, 9,326 out of that. There's two other lines of 2,000.
So IT software licensing minus 9,000.
326.
$326.
So the new number is 286,473.
Make a motion to reduce the IT software budget by $9,326.
Second.
Discussion? Favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
In the planning department and in the building department, $1,000 that are related to that same project.
That would be under the
Town planner,
in which line, the professional services?
Yep.
At the professional services line?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So professional services line would change to
48,500.
48,500. All right, we have a motion to change planning's professional services line to $48,500. That's fine. There's a second.
Second.
Any discussion, sorry? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. And then the other one was in the building department for 2,000. It's down here on professional services. That line would drop from 10,000 to 8,000. Do I have a motion? The building department, professional services,
I'll make a motion to reduce the building professional services by 2,000.
we have a second.
I'll second.
Discussion. Seeing none, all those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And opposed? Motion carries.
Sanitation.
Sanitation. Okay.
Amy, looking at where we are versus where we need to be versus where we think we're gonna be in terms of collection next year. And we think we get the contractual increase out to $10,000.
Election?
Oops. Too many zeros.
I'll make the motion to reduce sanitation collection by $1,000.
Discussion.
Is there a second?
None of those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
And you wanna head down to benefits, please? The other post-employment. Just take 10,000 out of that. So the way that works, for those of you who don't know, there is an OPEB trust that's been established. There is an actuarially defined contribution that we need to make. Then there's additional funds in there for employee payouts. So like, for example, when the police chief left, that, but we don't have any large dollar anticipated.
Make a motion to reduce the employee benefits OPEB line by $10,000.
I'll second.
None, all those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
So we've reduced it by how much now?
48,000.
10,000
No, I'm sorry,
48.
total.
together.
Or a chance.
I was gonna ask, I know that things are ever changing, right? And so what, have we seen any changes, anything that you're thinking on your side?
I mean, so what I can tell you is our special ed costs continue to rise. Since we presented to you, we have eliminated another position, did eliminate district line administrator. Since then, just to stay flat on it. I guess maybe one question I would have is, am I okay to ask Amy some questions as far as the process? Amy, with the chimney and gym ceiling projects, I know those were capital, those were under budget. Do you know what's left on this line?
I do not. Do you have like the package? It would have been in last week's CIP report.
I didn't bring that with me.
I guess my question is,
They would have to stay in CIP.
yeah.
They can't be moved to operations, but it could be moved to a different project.
So with the rat, be concerned.
They have been in the past.
Believe there's about. And if we. Same process and procedure that's.
I will say the CIP group would not agree with you anymore because they don't allow group projects together more than $7,000 for each piece of equipment. So they would not agree anymore, though we have done it in the past.
I'm happy to use that model too. I mean, I'm supportive of them using that as a model, but it also would help on the town side.
I mean, it's, we've used capital improvement. I mean, I mean, we buy equipment, we buy computers, computers are equipment. I mean,
And it says it's roughly 65.
Somebody put capital, I don't recall ever making a decision on it.
Oh, yes, it's been discussed many, many times, mostly over the DPW garage equipment. Every time they get in there, they say, we shouldn't be allowing them to buy a $6,000 this or a $7,000 this.
Whatever the policy is, it should apply evenly to all. That's why I'm saying, I'm happy to go with that.
I don't think the policy changed.
The policy is $7,000 per piece of equipment. That's the capital policy that's in our audit. And no computer is $7,000. Nor is a lot of the equipment at the garage. That's always been the fight at CIP.
We have come for an added appropriation for a laptop. We had to take that out.
I would say is, I mean, because it's on a replacement cycle, we don't replace the whole fleet. It's on essentially a third gets replaced every year. So like essentially it is part of our. It's actually just a piece of. IT. Budget, we're about 70% salaries. Special ed is 25%, but that includes the salaries of special ed staff. So match that together is 85% of our budget. So outside of that, we're basically nickel and diming. Other than that, if the production usually being staff. Back to laptops, there has been past practice.
Yeah, no, I do know that we have done that through the. So you said it's about 66,000?
Yeah, I can follow up with that as well.
So if that's gonna work, that's between the two, that's $114,000 so far. We keep it with single number, we can do that last one, we're all set done. But that's $66,000 they would have available. That's for the Chromebooks or for what is it, the item?
Yeah. That's not pass.
Okay. All right. This,
I try CIP, reducing CIP by 35,000 to bring it back flat where it was last year.
So, you wanna keep that flat or you wanna keep that at 2%? Because there's a difference there and we found ourselves falling behind in CIP because we kept it flat during the dark ages of the 2% years.
Well, let's try can we hold it back at the 2%?
So that would be a reduction of 11,400.
agreeable?
Okay with that.
Number we're trying to get at. So you said 500,000.
That's just my opinion.
What take that,
I mean,
taking that out, just, I mean, I just don't wanna cut things to just cut things. I think that's foolish. So, I mean, I appreciate Jason came prepared with things that are manageable for us and at least something for us to work with.
well, I guess my question is, if you go all the way to the bottom, I mean, we're making like, what do we do? How much so far? 100 and change?
114,000.
So what percentage? I mean, where are we?
What is it?
Well, right now, we've gone down 60-something thousand and it's all been on the town side. Nobody made a motion for the Board of Ed change.
So the original
Was
increase,
48,100?
the original increase was what? 562?
Yes,
And now we're
5.49.
5.9?
But that doesn't have any Board of Ed in it.
No, I understand that, but I'm just looking at like the impact here of these.
We
like-
here all night?
Yeah, that's basically how I feel. And then
What is that? And does that even do anything to the bill rate?
No. Sure.
It goes down 0.04.
Yeah.
To go flat, you have to go $918,000 to go this mill rate flat. $918,000 has to be the change. Right now, the change is just shy of 2.5 million. And we didn't have a motion on the CIP, I don't think.
No, we did not yet do
Okay.
that. Drop it somewhere.
No, that's in there. I did it, but
Oh,
nobody
Oh,
voted
we
on
didn't do
it.
the CIP motion?
Right.
I'm sorry.
Thought I made a motion on that. Make that motion, someone?
You said it, but you didn't make a
I
motion.
make a motion. Sorry.
We didn't have a second or a vote.
All right, say your motion again one more time.
CIP to bring it down to 2% increase, which was 11,404.
Have a second. 90 seconds. Discussion.
I think CIP, we can catch up on some of these projects, like the end of the year stuff, like we always been doing. I don't think that hurts us too much.
Further discussion? None, all those in favor of reducing CIP to 2% increase, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right.
I know I brought it up earlier, but what's the intended use for the site improvements under Park and Rec?
That's actually it's not new improvements, it's fertilizing, it's infield dirt, things that they need to maintain their parks.
Mold, wing replacement, anything chlorine for the splash pad,
So it's just really maintenance.
everything we use up there.
It's not really an improvement.
Yeah, some of the names in our budget are really. Yeah, but if. You know, we have to get the hood cleaned every year, that thing.
Basic maintenance.
Does anyone want to look at anything else? Other suggestions that have been thrown out tonight?
Question about senior services. There were several increases to our in diesel fees. What are we looking for? What are they looking for?
I don't remember any significant change. I know something tied to the community center was in programs.
What one for question?
Senior services. Program supplies.
So Susan, fees will increase $360.
Yeah.
Right.
I can tell you. It says dues and fees for the staff that express interest in the CCMO certification program.
So the CCMO, so there's two things. CCM started a certified Connecticut municipal officials certification program about 5 years ago. It's a program that provides, you have to take 36 courses, which is 12 classes in different disciplines associated with being a public employee. So I was one of the first ones to go through that here, and since then we've had about 9 other employees who have participated in that. And there's some value associated with those, nuts and bolts of being a supervisor, or there's some budgeting ones, there's some communications ones that are beneficial to departments as they move on. CCM is changing that. So they're doing away with the program that they have, and they're now doing an affiliation with the University of Connecticut. And so it's gonna be, it's not quite a master's certificate level, but it's gonna be a step below that. It's gonna be more academically driven. So there's gonna be a change in price associated with that. They have not rolled it out in total yet. They told us that it's coming. And we don't know what that change in price is. That said, that's not helping with that.
Right, I'm just thinking of, and programs, is
Well,
that to augment?
$900,000, $360 is not gonna.
That's what I'm just, for my own self, I'm just, the
Uh,
programs, is that starting new programs, senior center
It
is?
was to, 6,500 was to prepare and serve lunches 2 days a week for 52 weeks due to the CRT budget cut.
Yeah, CRT provides our,
Yeah. Going to, yeah, but now that I,
Yeah, sorry, I was like, I thought.
once again, it's the way these things is.
well, it's also the way these things are flowing downhill. I mean, that's not quite a mandate, but it's pretty damn close to a mandate.
Right, that makes more sense.
We
when
shouldn't do that stuff.
Programs to me is like aerobics.
No, it's not jazzercise.
That's what I think of as a program.
So,
I'm
Um,
just gonna say, so I'd like to make a motion to cut 66,000 Board of Ed. And then that's what I would like to fund towards the town.
you have a motion that's been made and seconded. Just make the motion, like, just redo your motion. You can't say that's what we're good for. This-
Okay, just, I make a motion to cut 66,000 from the Board of Ed budget.
Do I have a second for that? All right, discussion. Agree. I mean, if we put together send, as you suggest with your motions, a reduction of $114,000. I honestly think we're gonna see the same result. But
My feeling, and transparently, is I think that the people who voted no want to see the cuts from the town side, not the Board of Ed side. I also don't feel good about not putting anything. I think that, I'm trying to, be fair. We asked what they felt comfortable with. So if they feel comfortable, I feel comfortable. And if it fails on the second referendum, then I guess that's when I feel like I'd rather go on ahead and make tougher decisions. But I don't want to just cut services to cut services.
My concern is that the budget, in my mind, I lived here long enough where I just don't know. I don't know what the happy number is, and then at the same time, I'm feeling as if I don't want to just start making cuts just to make cuts to get to some number that we put out for a vote and then. So I think we put a lot of time and effort into the budget. I think if there is some stuff that we can do without for right now, I'm comfortable with that, but that's where I'm at. I don't know what I'm looking at that change, how we're changing this so far, and this is just going, small percent change.
If my hope is that all of those that are against the town side, because it sounds like they are very much in favor of the school side, I hope that they can recognize that we really truly have done our due diligence. And that while we may not agree on what is best for the town, what they feel is best is not what I feel is best. But I think we do all agree that we don't want to cut from our schools. So I hope that their love for our children and our school system outweighs their hatred for some of the other decisions that are being made that they don't like.
The vote difference is not
79,
70.
So that's now 4.2, is that where we're at?
Uh,
Or which number?
no, we're at 5.34, this number here, 2.4 million.
Down 0.3.
Yep,
Just cut from the town side?
68.
Yeah, that's something done.
All right, we have a motion on the floor to reduce the Board of Ed by $66,000.
We've cut about 125,000 between the two.
likely gonna change the vote, but.
I'll ask again, is there any further discussion on the motion to reduce the Board of Ed by $66,000? All right, seeing none, all those in favor, will signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No,
Motion carries. Oh, we've taken, you said $125,000 reduction?
Yes.
I missed the number somewhere. I missed the CIP.
I just have one more.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, I'm just offering this up for discussion, Joe. Planning department, 50,000 for professional services. I don't know, is that for the consultant?
So 48 is, we already cut it by 2, which was the other piece that was their software. So 48 is
Okay.
the planning consultant.
Dollars.
That's why I brought this up for discussion. I don't know what's going on.
Yep. So he's been doing his job and,
Okay, I'm okay with that.
okay. I will ask just one time, does anyone want to look at debt service? Because it has been brought up many times. I mean, I'm not saying we have to go there, but I mean, it is an item, but again, there's a lot of things that potentially coming up between rooms and repairs of schools and whatnot that is been talked about, and we take it out, we gotta get it back in there sometime in the future.
Where are you with that service now?
2%. 981,000. 981, 183. And our current spend is, I think, 462. 452, 453.
And that covers a year.
That's the current debt.
What was the record, was, someone said, mention about a recommended, the auditor. recommended.
Yeah, they'll do it in 1 year compensated absence.
Yeah, it's 851,000.
No, compensated absence is 515 with the debt together. It's actually 900 and something $1,000 because we're at 450 for the debt and 515. So it's actually more than we had budgeted, I think, between the two of them.
Okay, so devil's advocate, so what happens when this goes to 2% anyways?
That would be exactly this number. Oh, no, it would change by a little bit.
You could take that to 2% now.
I mean,
I mean, that's what it would go to.
that's what it would
be
go
the
to,
two-
so I'm just thinking,
It would go to 2%.
that feels like
Do you know what that number is?
About 15,000.
gonna go there anyways, might as well.
15,600.
But the two different lines, right? 9,
Yeah, so out of principal, it'd be 9,069.
64.
9,069.
I did.
Oh, 6480.
Okay, bring it to our budget now.
No, they're both 2%.
So,
So that drops those two down, 9,000 and 4,000 to get them to a total of 15,000, and that gets them to 2%. So that would be the number that would be in the budget if we go to 2%.
And that'd be $15,000 reduction?
Yes, the first one, the principal is $9,069. The interest is $6,484. So we probably need either a combined motion or two separate motions.
I'll make a motion to reduce debt service, the principal line by $9,069.
Discussion? And then all those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Second one,
Who was my second?
Randy,
Randy.
Thank you.
So where are we now?
and then
Oh, we have to go.
I'll make a motion,
For the
to
interest.
reduce debt service interest by $6,484.
I'll second that.
Tom did.
discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
I feel okay about that.
And that brings us to 5.31 or 2.417 for our overall budget. $141,000 so far in reductions.
Again, I think that my thought behind it is that's where we're gonna end up on those two lines. That's anyways, if we don't pass, they're gonna, if we're gonna get 2%. I don't think
Oh,
they don't want to, we don't want to increase our legal fees and they're already below 2%. So I feel okay. I mean, I don't feel great.
Any other discussion, any other ideas?
I'm done.
Done.
I don't think it's enough, but.
You go to number 3, you start playing with fire, so.
Got that.
All right, so if that's all.
Is that, number 3 is, we gotta be the 2% for the next one, or?
No,
does that one
number
have
3
to-
is we put forward and that's our last chance to make it right. If it fails that time, then it goes to 2% across the board. That's why I say that if you go to number 3,
We're
better
playing
have it
with
right the
fire.
next time. And if,
All right, what number do we need to make a motion on the?
The 47,959,066.
Okay, I'll take, am I making a motion to put the 47 million $959,066 to referenda?
Yep.
any discussion? I personally don't know if we've done enough, but we'll see. That's where it falls. Any other discussion? See, now ask for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Motion to adjourn.
Yep.
Motion to adjourn.
I'll second. Meeting adjourned. Thank you all very much.
Oh, George.
The total we reduced everything was 141.
The blue wife is done.
Have a lovely evening.
Amy.